Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing an amazing climbing team in the Willpower Cup built around X-SCISSOR PAWNIARD. The Willpower Cup is a 1500 combat power format where only fighting, dark, and psychic type Pokemon are allowed, and Gardevoir has been banned. And this team I had amazing results with. I went 10-4 with the team to climb up to 33-31 ELO. The team, PAWNIARD on the lead, Air/Mandibuzz as the safe switch, and Moonblast Cresselia as the closer. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at this great climbing team in action in the Willpower Cup. We're off to a tough start in the first match, PAWNIARD into Claydol. I throw one Fury Cutter safe switch to the Air/Mandibuzz, which in my view is just the best safe switch in this format, and the opponent is going to respond with Guzzlord. This is a fine matchup. Air/Mandibuzz does win the 0s and the 1s. The only shielding scenario that I lose is the 2s. So if my opponent is going to double shield, then I'm just not going to commit the second shield. I'm just going to take my shield advantage and hope that with a shield advantage, either the PAWNIARD or the Cresselia will be able to sweep. Here my opponent is at the back-to-back Dragon Claws. I know that I can survive this claw, so I am going to let it through. Opponent tries to go for the CMP tie. I'm going to go for the extra Air Slash. I'm getting pretty low, so I will end up just under tapping the Aerial Ace and force my opponent to make a decision. Give me both shields or switch. They are going to give me both shields, and now I'm going to send in the PAWNIARD, and PAWNIARD gets that farm down. That is massive. But now I have an energy lead over the Claydol, and they don't have any shields. The Fury Cutters plus double Night Slash will actually knock out, so now PAWNIARD is in a position to flip one of its worst meta matchups. I will be committing the shield as the opponent goes for the Scorching Sands. They wait and make a beautiful catch onto Mandibuzz. That is a terrific play by my opponent, as they're able to save that Claydol for later. Mandibuzz now going to be hit with an X-SCISSOR, and I think I just have to stay in here with the PAWNIARD and try and get as much damage as I possibly can, because I need to get it into Moonblast range. But the tough thing for me is that this is not Moonblast range just yet. High rank Mandibuzz can survive a Moonblast pretty comfortably, so I will be firing off the Moonblast. Moonblast is going to get them very low. Here the health bar does glitch out because they did queue up a switch into Claydol, but when they return to the field of play, you're going to see their health is a lot lower than what it just showed. So I fire off the Grass Knot. That's going to KO the Claydol. Back in comes the Mandibuzz. They're very low, but trying to Psycho Cut down a Mandibuzz is a fool's errand. I need to make it to the Grass Knot, and we just get there by the narrowest of margins. So a pretty tough lead matchup, but we're able to fight back and take the win. We move to the next match, leading PAWNIARD into Wobbuffet. Wobbuffets in this meta are on Charm, so this is a great lead. Opponent is going to save switch into Mandibuzz, and they clearly are ABA weak to PAWNIARD. Now here is how you handle a Mandibuzz safe switch. You're going to want to get some chip damage and then bring in your own Mandibuzz. Think of it much like in the previous Open Great League meta when an opponent safe switched a Lickitung. The most effective way to neutralize a Lickitung was to get a health advantage and then bring in your own Lickitung to absorb the energy. Now I just have too much of a health advantage. My opponent is never going to be able to flip this matchup, and their Mandibuzz energy just doesn't really go anywhere because I have my own Mandibuzz to just soak up all of this damage. They're going to be firing off another Aerial Ace, but my Mandibuzz is absolutely unbothered as it's looking to overfarm and get some energy for the next matchup. My opponent, if they bring back in the Charm Wobbuffet, they are going to take quite a bit of damage from Dark Pulse. Wobbuffet is quite bulky. The nice thing about this team is that PAWNIARD is going to do pretty well into the Charmers because Charm only hits for neutral, and Cresselia absolutely crushes the Charmers. Here my opponent attempts to snipe with a Mud Slap from Claydol. Claydol going to get hit with an Aerial Ace, and now I can just bring in the Cresselia, and Cresselia does great at handling Claydol. And that's how the team is constructed. PAWNIARD is going to have a pretty neutral to favorable matchup against most things you're going to encounter, with a couple notable exceptions: Claydol, Primeape, and Annihilate. So in the back, we have two Pokemon that are not only going to successfully handle the Claydol, but are also very good at beating the fighters as well. So that way we end up with a very balanced team where we have very good answers in the back, but it doesn't necessarily feel like an ABB team. Here, I'm able to land the Grass Knot, which is great. I try and go for the catch, but unfortunately my tap was not registered. I will be shielding up the Scorching Sands, but they are at the back-to-back, so this is going to force a double shield. At this point, they have to try and catch at some point. I try and throw one in the move there. The game does a second Psycho Cut and that allows them to catch, which is a little annoying, but they have no way of beating the PAWNIARD. Look at these Charms. These Charms do absolutely nothing. And that's why it's nice that Pokemon like Gardevoir were banned, because now as we actually get a completely unnecessary boost. But now you're dealing with Pokemon that don't get same type attack bonus on Charm, so they're just not nearly as strong, and it makes the cup a lot less fast move focused. Back in comes the Claydol. We have a boosted Night Slash that is massive overkill, and we're able to take the win. Hopping to the next match, Pawniard into Qwilfish against the Dark Poisons. This is why we have X-SCISSOR. X-SCISSOR, of course, you don't get same type attack bonus on, but it is a cheaper move than Iron Head, so you have a little bit of extra spamminess, which is very nice. I'm going to farm up quite a bit with the Pawniard and look to connect with an X-SCISSOR. This will not KO, but it will do a solid amount of damage. Opponent is going to let that through, and now I can start firing off Night Slashes. Night Slash will be resisted, but it has faster pacing, and I get another boost. Oh my goodness, the Pawniard boost luck is with us today. So now they're going to have to deal with a boosted Pawniard. They bring in the Mandibuzz, and we already know how to handle Mandibuzz. We are going to get some chip damage. I'm going to look to bank as much energy as I can, get a catch and a sneak of an Air Slash, and now their Mandibuzz is completely helpless because they're at that health disadvantage and they're aligned into mine. So again, I can't stress enough how important it is to understand how to play this Mandibuzz matchup. When your opponent safe switches Mandibuzz, understanding that you need to get chip damage, and then you just bring in your own, and there's not really a whole lot they can do. And here we're actually seeing basically the one thing that can really mess with Mandibuzz in this meta, and that is more Peko. But a lot of the times, like let's say there's a fighter lead and you have to safe switch Mandibuzz, there's probably not going to be a more Peko behind it because then they would be ABA weak to Charm. Here, I bring in the Pawniard, as of course, my Fury Cutters will be hitting for super effective damage, and now I fire off the Night Slash. Either move will KO, so I may as well go for the cheaper one. They're actually going to let that through. They bring in the Qwilfish. Qwilfish gets a farm down, but now I can bring in the Mandibuzz. Air Slashes will add up. Opponent brings in their own Mandibuzz, and they basically have no health remaining on any of their Pokemon. And I still haven't used my Cresselia yet. I am really enjoying this format so far. Here we just get a back-breaking catch of the Aerial Ace, and that's all she wrote. There is no longer a way to win this game. Mandibuzz is going to go for the Dark Pulse. That does quite a lot of damage, but Cresselia is going to get to the Grass Knot. Grass Knot is going to be able to secure the knockout, knocking Mandibuzz out of the sky, and all that's left is the Qwilfish, and Qwilfish is going to get Psycho cut down, and that game will end in victory. We get a good lead in the next match, Pawniard into the more fun Mandibuzz, that is Galarian Moltres. I do think Mandibuzz is a lot better than Moltres in this meta personally, just due to the fact that you have that Air Slash fast move. And having a move that can hit fighting types for super effective as their fast move is very valuable. Here I'm going to X-Scissor, throw 6 Fury Cutters, and then X-Scissor again on CMP, but I have a frame drop, and that makes me go down a shield that I shouldn't have to go down. The game state was quite bad today when I was battling, which was unfortunate, but I still wanted to show the battles because I felt like even though the game state was very bad, the team was still getting a lot of wins. So we have to go down a shield that we shouldn't have had to go down because we do win cap over Moltres with Pawniard. They're going to send in their Drapion. I get to land an X-Scissor, which does very nice damage, and now I bring in the Mandibuzz. And Mandibuzz is just so good at being a damage sponge. They're going to be firing off Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail, and it just does nothing. There was that one event a while back where they did have Vullaby in the wild, and that's how I was able to get the very high rank Mandibuzz. If you don't have a very high rank Mandibuzz, I would encourage trying to trade for one, as it's just a terrific thing to have. There, I did throw an alignment intentionally, because if I tried to go for good timing, they could outpace, and I wanted to pressure them into giving up a shield. So I'm going to farm up even more. They're firing off more energy, and at this point, I think I'm just going to trust in Cresselia. So I bring in Cresselia, and it's Claydol in the back, and this game is a win as Cresselia absolutely handles Claydol no problem. Most Claydol are going to be on Scorching Sands and Ice Beam. They have Ice Beam as kind of the get out of jail free card in case they get stuck against Mandibuzz. Here my opponent's actually running Shadow Ball, but even though it's super effective damage, they don't get same type attack bonus. So that Shadow Ball is survivable. I'm able to grab the final shield. Now I can make the Grass Knot. This should leave them at just about 1 HP. So the guaranteed win con is just a switch into the Mandibuzz. Air Slash KOs the Drapion. We have a move for the Claydol, and the opponent will resign the match. Pawniard into Shadow Annihilate. Terrible lead, but I am going to save switch into the Mandibuzz. Opponent responds with more Peko, and this trainer right here does not fear Charm whatsoever. When building the team, the thought process is if they have a fighter on the lead, they can't have a more Peko in the back, because then if they saw a fairy type, they would just lose. But this opponent says, I do not fear fairy types. I'm running ABA weak. I am leading Annihilate with more Pekko in the back, and that is very, very tough to deal with. Here they're going to go for the Dark-type Aura Wheel. That's not going to do a ton of damage, and now I get to fire off the Aerial Ace. They can look to overfarm quite a bit here, because they're going to try and exit with as much energy as they possibly can. Farming up a ton with the Mandibuzz. That Air Slash that sneaks would KO, but I don't think I can give up the final shield. I decide to let that through. If I gave up that final shield, I had visions of Annihilate double Rage Fisting and KOing the Cresselia, so instead, I'm just going to leave it all up to Cresselia. In the back is Greninja, and unfortunately, I just don't think this is a winnable endgame for me. Cresselia has good matchups into both the remaining Pokemon, but it's not able to 1v2. In that instance, I could have gone for a Moonblast on bad timing, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe a Grass Knot is not enough to KO, so I couldn't have gone for one in the move there. I will be firing off the Moonblast, but at this point, I'm low enough that they can just win the game with the Shadow Annihilate. So in this instance, the opponent running a team that was very, very soft to Fairy. It's actually triple weak to Fairy, and unfortunately, we can't win them all. Pawniard into Victini is a great lead as long as shields are up. I'm just going to fire off the Night Slash as this will hit for some massive damage into Victini, and I get a boost. Oh, this is great. I'm going to be committing the shield, and now Fury Cuttering all the way down. Opponent safe switches into, you guessed it, a Mandibuzz. Again, if you know how to handle the Mandibuzz save switch, you can climb in this format. So we're going to throw the boosted X-Scissor, throw a bunch of Fury Cutters, and then switch out right as they make it to the Aerial Ace. So we save a little bit of residual energy in case we need it for later, and now they are just completely walled off. Their Aerial Aces while hitting for neutral sure do not feel neutral, as it just does absolutely nothing. And I'm always going to look to try and farm close to 100 energy because the switch timers are misaligned. I want energy in case they decide to switch out, and they're going to do just that. They bring Galarian moltres, and this is very, very fine because I have a lot of energy on the Mandibuzz, and I get to spam out these Aerial Aces. Opponent continues to farm. They could have gone for an Ancient Power there, but instead, they're just going to go for extra energy. The Aerial Ace is going to land. I bring in the Pawniard, and I'm just clicking the X-Scissor. X-Scissor is going to do some pretty nice damage here. Opponent lets it through. Maybe they thought that it was only a Night Slash, and I was on Night Slash Iron Head, but no, I am not. Here, we've got a problem, and its name is Como-O. Como-O is a wall to energy from this moveset. And here they throw after 4, and that confused me. And I had a moment of panic. In my head, I was like, is Brick Break 4? So I end up shielding a move that I did not have to shield. I'm going to bank a ton of energy, go Mandibuzz, and out comes Drapion. In reality, Dragon Claw would have done a decent amount, so preserving health on Pawniard isn't the worst thing in the world. But man, I really do regret that shield, because being down a shield, this endgame is going to feel quite a bit different. Here, they're going to spam out as many Aqua Tails as they possibly can get to, but Mandibuzz is up to the task of absorbing this energy. Here, I am going to undertap because they were one off the move, so I do want to either guarantee the shield back or guarantee switch. And they are going to give the shield back here. I go for an aggressive play into the Pawniard. I tried to snipe here and have it not be CMP so I could get both X-Scissors, but unfortunately I cannot. Oh, that was very close. We do live on 1 HP. Opponent sends in Como-O since they know they're going to wall off this move, and I fire off the X-Scissor. Now, Night Slash is the more efficient move to go for, but X-Scissor does slightly more damage overall, so if you can only get to 1, go for the X-Scissor. And now I'm going to try for an incredibly aggressive Psycho Cut farm down. I realize that's never going to happen, so I go for a Grass Knot here, but the Como-O tanks it with fractional HP. Oh, that is unfortunate. I'm not too familiar with Great League Como-O and its bulk. And in that instance there, man, now I just don't have a lot of energy. In comes the Drapion. I quick switch into the Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is going to be hit with the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail not going to do a lot of damage. Opponent now going to bring in Sableye. And here, whether I go for an Aerial Ace or Dark Pulse, it's not really going to matter. I go for the Aerial Ace in case I can make 2, but I cannot. Either way, the important thing is to get a little bit of chip, so then I can put it into Moonblast range. But what this game is going to come down to is, can I Psycho Cut down Drapion before it gets an Aqua Tail? Drapion did do 2 and a switch out, so the second Air Slash did not register, and that wins them the game. Pato Man, he's not a regional champion for nothing. What a brilliantly played endgame by him. And we do lose on 1 HP. Hopping into the final match, Pawniard into Rapidash. Rapidash now runs Wild Charge in this meta, so I'm actually going to throw on 10 and CMP tie them here. This means that they're either going to have to shield up the Night Slash because their defense is debuffed, or they're going to lose basically all of the available health on the Rapidash. So they end up no shield, and that does so much damage. In comes the Drapion. I'm going to bank energy and bring in the Mandibuzz. Again, using Mandibuzz as this damage sponge. I do think that being able to, I've said it quite a few times already, but being able to understand how to correctly position Mandibuzz in this meta is basically just the key to victory. Like, Pawniard Cresselia Core is absolutely amazing, but being able to neutralize opposing Mandibuzz safe switches with your own, or in this case, neutralize the Drapion, just by absorbing hit after hit and saving the shields for Pawniard, really puts you in a position to succeed. Opponent now going to bring in Hisuian Quillfish. Quillfish going to be hit with an Aerial Ace. They commit the shield, but now I can bring in Cresselia. Quillfish in this meta typically will be on Aqua Tail Ice Beam. Ice Beam does give them that hard-hitting, super effective coverage against Mandibuzz, but that means without Dark Pulse or Shadow Ball, that Cresselia is very safe here. So I get to fire off the neutral Moonblast, opponent will commit the shield. Switch Clocks are misaligned, so that is something I will have to watch out for. They're going to fire off an Aqua Tail. Their timer's up, they bring in the Drapion, and Drapion, I can't let it get a move, so I'm forced to expend my energy, fire off the Grass Knot, and KO the Drapion. Here, actually, I'm going to stop tapping, because if I see the Rapidash, I need to switch out. There's the Rapidash, I switch into the Pawniard. This should only be a Body Slam, but I have a moment of doubt, and I shield. I shouldn't have shielded this. In reality, it's not going to matter, because Pawniard is going to win the CMP tie over Quillfish like an absolute legend. Let's go, Pawniard. That is massive damage to the opponent. Realistically, I should have just had a shield and been fine, but either way, we're going to be able to take the win. I shouldn't have shielded that Body Slam. It's straight 5 to Wild Charge, not 5-4, but the good news is, in that instance, that mistake was not enough to change the game's outcome. All in all, I think this is an amazing climbing team if you're looking to play the Willpower Cup. Watching this video and kind of learning how the team works, I think will be very valuable, whereas just seeing the team and trying to play it, I think having a good understanding of how to utilize the Mandibuzz, as shown in the games here, will be very helpful when it comes to using this team. Granted, people could decide to just have a team with Morpeko in the back, and that would make Mandibuzz's life a lot more difficult. But as time goes on, I do think that Morpeko will be used less in this cup, as outside of Mandibuzz, it doesn't to me feel like Morpeko has a ton of targets, and I feel like in the long run, it'll end up being more of a hindrance than a help in this particular format. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.